Hello folks, how are you? Sean Ferrick here for Who Culture. And as 2023 comes to a close, what we want to do is take this opportunity to highlight some of the people who've left us in 2023. In our lists, we do the entries, if you like. We tend to save those for the people who appeared on screen in speaking roles in Doctor Who, but I don't want anyone to feel that we think anyone is any more or less important than anyone else without the contributions from every single person named in the list I'm about to speak. Doctor Who would not be what it is today. With that, I want to take a moment to remember such people as Peter Day, Ray Callahan, Alan Jeffrey, Derek Smith and Derek Hunt, Jim McManus, Ken Westbury, Alan Hatchman, Dina Walker, Tony Milton, Roger Squires, Dinny Powell, Patricia Pryor, Michael Langley Evans, Michael Patrick Ricks, Doreen Mantle, Bernard Newnham, Elizabeth Norman, Jean Boat, Stuart Walker, Shona Tripsick, Tony Rohr, Carol Sloman, Anthony Gardner and Sid Sutton. All of these people made their mark on the franchise and they all deserve to be remembered. And as we go on, we're going to look at faces we've seen in the Sarah Jane Adventures, in Torchwood and in Doctor Who. But overall, would you please join us in taking a time to just recognise everyone who has been involved in Doctor Who that has passed away in 2023. I'm Sean Ferrick for Who Culture. Let's dive in. Number 12, Tim Barlow. Tim Barlow played Tyson in Destiny of the Daleks, a fourth Doctor serial. This serial saw the Doctor and Romana 2 arrive on Skaro and discover that the Daleks have been keeping a large number of humans as slaves. Tyson was one of these people. He was played, of course, by Tim Barlow. Barlow was profoundly deaf at the time of filming, which was the result of testing a new type of muzzle for a high-velocity rifle in the decade prior. He regained his hearing and he would go on to discuss his experiences in a BBC Radio 4 show called Earful: From Silence to Sound. He appeared in a range of other roles. He might be best known to some as Mr. Treacher from Hot Fuzz, or as one of the blind oracles in the HBO series Rome. Barlow died in January of 2023 at 87 years of age. Number 11, Richard Kane. Richard Kane appeared in the 1966 serial The Power of the Daleks as Valmar. This was a second Doctor serial that saw Kane take on the role of an engineer who thought he could perhaps use the Daleks to help both himself, his fellow engineers, and his love interest, Janley. The Daleks being the Daleks, you can probably imagine how that went. Thankfully, the second Doctor was on hand to set things right. Kane had a long and busy career, both in front of and behind the camera as well. He also had a vast range of experience in theatre, particularly in Shakespearean drama. He was also in films. Notably, he played Colonel Weaver in Richard Attenborough's 1977 war epic, A Bridge Too Far. He died in February of 2023 at 84 years of age. Number 10, Doreen Mantle. Doreen June Mantle would be known to a lot of our audience here for her role in the Sarah Jane Adventures two-parter Eye of the Gorgon, where she played Mrs. Randall. To many other viewers, she might best be remembered for her 18-episode stint in the long-running comedy One Foot in the Grave, where she played Mrs. Warboys. Mantle was South African born, but a lot of her early years were spent moving between both South Africa and the UK before she would eventually settle in the UK. She appeared in many theatre productions and won a Laurence Olivier Award for Best Supporting Actress for her role in Death of a Salesman. She would go on to be in many BBC and ITV productions and would also do a lot of work on radio as well. She was quoted as saying, as very, very early on in her career, she went into acting as a means of earning a living and, to her great surprise, did so. She passed away in August 2023 at 97 years of age. Number 9, Lillas Walker. Lillas Walker played Sister Lamont in the fourth Doctor serial, Terror of the Zygons. She was one of the humans who had been kidnapped and then copied by the Zygons, but she was saved by the fourth Doctor before he set the Zygon ship to self-destruct. So, no harm done then. Walker was born in Scotland and would have a long television career. She might be best remembered for her role as Rosemary Cartland in 60 episodes of The Cedar Tree, a drama that followed the daily happenings of an aristocratic family set in the 1930s. She was married to her husband Peter Vaughan for 50 years before his death in 2016. He would probably be best remembered to people today as Maester Aemon in Game of Thrones. Walker died in August 2023. She was 93 years of age. Number 8, Bridget Forsyth. Bridget Forsyth appeared as Ruth Maxtable in the second Doctor serial, The Evil of the Daleks. The beleaguered character was engaged to a man who it turned out was under the thrall of the Daleks, though thankfully the Doctor was able to save them both, and what's more, encouraged her to get the heck out of Dodge. Forsyth was an actor who effectively never seemed to be out of work. She had appearances in effectively all of the major British soaps. One of her notable roles was that of Thelma Farris Chambers in Whatever Happened to the Likely Lads. She would also be remembered for her role as Madge in Still Open All Hours. She was also a talented musician, playing and composing music for the cello. She was able to combine her acting and musical skills in 2004 when she was cast in Cello and the Nightingale. She died in December 2023. She was 83 years of age. Number 7, Eve Pearce. Eve Pearce appeared in the Torchwood episode Small Worlds. She played Estelle Cole, a woman who had known Captain Jack Harkness during the Second World War. When they found each other again years later, she believed Captain Jack, who of course doesn't really age, to be the son of the man she had fallen in love with. All seemed to be going well until she was killed by fairies. It's a good episode. As well as being a talented actor, Pearce was a published poet. Her first pamphlet, Woman in Winter, was published in 2007. This was followed by Capturing Snowflakes in 2012, along with the CD, Left to Tell the Tale. She volunteered at the Interact Reading Service, in which she would visit hospitals and read to stroke victims who were recuperating. She died in January of 2023. She was 95 years of age. Number 6, Sylvia Syms. After having previously been considered for a role in the 5th Doctor serial, Warriors of the Deep, Sylvia Syms appeared in the 7th Doctor serial, Ghostlight, in which she played Mrs. Pritchard. This was in 1989. At this stage, Syms had an enormous list of credits to her name. She was an absolute star of the screen and stage, and she had a memorable term in Stephen Frear's biopic, The Queen, in which she played the Queen Mother. She was born in London, but like many children during the war years, she was evacuated. She then lost her mother at the young age of 12. She would struggle with her own mental health issues as a teenager, but her own stepmother helped to get her the help that she needed. This would lead to Syms discovering her lifelong passion for acting, which in a very real way helped to save the actor's life. In 1961, Syms appeared alongside Dirk Bogarde in the film Victim. This is a culturally significant film as it was the first in British cinema history to, first of all, state that homosexuality was a thing, and that it depicted it in a sympathetic life. This film has been considered one of the cornerstone moments for helping the British public change their views on what homosexuality had been perceived to be. She was also a patron of the Stars Foundation for Cerebral Palsy and served on the board for a long time. She died in January 2023 at 89 years of age. Number 5, John Nettleton. John Nettleton also appeared in the 7th Doctor serial Ghostlight. He played the Reverend Ernest Matthews. This ill-fated reverend argued with the antagonist of the story, which effectively saw him transformed into an ape and put on display. There was stuff about evolution. It's a good story. Go watch it. Nettleton himself would probably be best known for his role as Sir Arnold Robinson, a civil servant and assistant in both Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister. He appeared in dozens of productions throughout his career, but one thing that we really wanted to highlight was the narration work that he did on Blue Peter. He would narrate children's stories while illustrations of those stories would play out on screen. He and his wife Deirdre Doone were both members of the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament. He died in July 2023. He was 94 years of age. Number 4, Terence Hardiman. Terence Hardiman played Hawthorne in the 11th Doctor episode The Beast Below. Initially depicted as a very shady character, it turns out that he was loyally working for Queen Elizabeth X, or Elizabeth X if you will. That did, however, involve torturing a space whale so that it could direct the Starship UK. Thankfully, Amy Pond was able to put a stop to this practice. Hardiman was well known in his career for playing very tough, very austere characters, and on the one hand, you would be forgiven for thinking he only ever played villains, but on the other, he managed to give a lot of these villainous roles much more depth than one might initially have thought. So you see him playing soldiers for regimes you would never possibly want to consider, and yet you're struggling to hate the character because of what Hardiman was doing with him. That's not to say he didn't have a lot of fun as well. For example, when he played the Demon Headmaster in The Demon Headmaster, and also one of the Grand Wizards on The Worst Witch. Hardiman died in April 2023. He was 86 years of age. Number 3, Murray Melvin. Murray Melvin played the morally ambiguous Billis Manger in the Torchwood episodes Captain Jack Harkness and End of Time. This is a role that he would return to in the Big Finish audio dramas. Morally ambiguous might seem a bit of an odd description when you only look at the character as depicted on screen, but there's a bit more explanation that goes into the story, and effectively he was just worshipping his god Abaddon. Not his fault, Abaddon was the size of Godzilla. Melvin was a lifelong actor, discovering theatre and film early on, thanks to a theatre group that his parents actually co-founded. A meticulously stylistic man, he would often credit things like his clean fingernails to getting parts and maintaining a sense of decorum. I have to say, fair play, Murray, fair play. He would appear in several of the films of Ken Russell and Stanley Kubrick, and with the former, he would forge a lifelong friendship. His theatre credits are almost too long to count. That's how much work this man did. In December 2022, he suffered from a fall from which he never truly recovered. He died in April 2023. He was 90 years of age. Number 2, Paul O'Grady. Though his scene in The Stolen Earth is so brief, Paul O'Grady just had us in stitches as Yanto was struggling to keep his composure while watching him. His career spanned decades. He was a comedian, he was a well-known drag queen in the persona of Lily Savage for a long time, but particularly it's his work with animal charities that he really focused on in his later years. Sure, his inclusion on this list might seem a bit cheeky. I mean, he's in 20 seconds of one episode, but at the same time, it is hard to really quantify how large his impact on television was at the time that episode aired. Again, to mention his work with animals, his relationship with his dogs was infamous. You know, it seemed like he couldn't walk through a room without adopting 3 or 4 of them. And anyone who was watching his show will probably struggle to forget the devastating moment when his dog Buster had to go to sleep. There is no question of the fact that Paul O'Grady was at times a very controversial figure, but that was part of the point. He always spoke his mind and was a fierce supporter of LGBTQIA+ charities and peoples. He was vocally opposed to Vladimir Putin after the Russian law that forbade and prevented promoting homosexuality to children was brought into effect. He suffered 3 heart attacks in his life, bouncing back after all of them, and working each one of them into his comedy routines. O'Grady passed away in March 2023 at only 67 years of age. Number 1, Michael Gambon. Michael Gambon famously portrayed Kazran Sardek in the 11th Doctor Christmas special, A Christmas Carol. A very thinly veiled take on the Dickens classic. Kazran was the Ebenezer Scrooge of the piece, but thankfully the Doctor and Abigail were able to soften his heart, and there was also a flying shark. Without a doubt, Gambon would almost definitely be best known for his role of Albus Dumbledore. But like many others on this list, he had a long career in film, television, and theatre. He was mentored by none other than Laurence Olivier and was one of the earliest people to enroll in the Royal National Theatre. He was knighted in 1998 for his services to drama. His many awards saw Olivier Awards and BAFTAs, though perhaps most importantly, one of the corners in Top Gear was named after him after he took it so sharp the car went up on 2 wheels. Fair play, Michael. Gambon died in September 2023. He was 82 years old. Thank you very much everyone for watching our list. Though these are always, by their very nature, sad lists to make, it is always so heartwarming and fascinating to see the impact that everyone on these lists has made, not just on the Doctor Who franchise, but on the world itself. So please, I implore you, if you have the time, check out any of the names on this list. If we by any chance have missed any names from 2023, please do let us know in the comments below, and have a very merry, happy, peaceful new year. As always, keep things wibbly wobbly. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Bye.